So the topic today is how to create and configure your own Rosetta viewer. This is the fourth session we're doing in the past few months. It's me, Tzvi, Fast again, from the Rosetta team leader on the Rosetta team, and let's get going. So in this session, we will learn about how to create and configure and deploy an external viewer. We'll see the configuration, the different parts of a viewer, the VPP, and other things. The objective of the session will be that at the end of the session, participants will be able to build their own Rosetta viewer by understanding the following: how to use Rosetta Delivery APIs as part of an external viewer, when to use a viewer preprocessor and what's the need of it, and then how to take advantage of that, and how does the delivery configuration that is quite complex affect your viewers. So let's go. So we'll first start with a delivery overview. We'll see how the delivery works and what are the different parts of it, just to get a feeling and understanding of how Rosetta delivers its objects. Then we'll take a look at the viewer preprocessor part, delivery APIs, and then at the end we'll go thoroughly through the delivery configuration and understand how to put everything together in order to get the viewer to work. So this is a quite complex chart over here, you see. And we'll take a look at it part by part. We divide into three parts. We have the delivery manager part, the VPP, that's in other words the viewer preprocessor, and the viewer itself. So let's focus on the first part. So when you look at the delivery manager, you see on the left, we have the user over here. The user makes a request for delivery. When it does a request for delivery, it's a specific IE or file that is being asked to be delivered. The first thing we do is we check access rights. Okay, delivery always has to have any IE, any PID has to have access rights, and we'll first check the access rights. If it's denied, the user will get a not allowed page. I'm sure you're familiar with that. There are cases where login is required, and he might, if he's logged in, he might be able to view the object, and then he'll get a not allowed page with an option to log in. That's the case where the access rights denies the user from viewing this object. And the third case over here, we see he is allowed, he passes the access rights, and then we process delivery rules. Okay, so we're going to go thoroughly through the configuration of them, but we have the delivery rules that make a decision of which viewer you're going to be using and which representation profile. So this rule can be, again, according to IES type, which user it is, if it's staff user, or other things, and we'll see it inside the UI later on. This rule will decide which viewer to use and which representation profile to use. The representation profile part will decide which representations out of this IE will be viewed by this delivery. And then we do another access right check on the rep. So today we have also access rights on a rep level, not only on IE level, and that check and that filter will be done at this part after we know which representations can be delivered. We'll do another check on their access rights. In case there are no representations that can be delivered, then it will be denied and the user will get a not allowed page. This is the first part. Then we'll go on to the next part. If he is allowed, okay, so we passed all the access rights, whether it's on IE level, rep level. We have a specific rep or several reps that have this IE that can be viewed. Then we will go on to the VPP part. If VPP is part of a viewer can have, doesn't have to, but could have a VPP affiliated with it. Okay, and this viewer preprocessor is a plugin, and we'll discuss it later on, but it's a plugin that will be used in order to do some kind of processing on your files before you make delivery, before the delivery itself, and we will process this VPP, execute it at this stage. So it might be transferring the files, some kind of business logic or something like that. And then the next stage after VPP, we redirect to the viewer URL that was configured on the viewer using the DVS, okay, delivery session ID. So it's a unique ID that we use as part of the delivery, and you'll see you need to have it on every stage of delivery that's on the URL. You can see it if you look and make some sniffing on it. The third part of viewing of the viewer is the viewer itself. And here we get to the viewer itself. It can be an internal viewer, one of our out-of-the-box viewers. It can be an external viewer that you created, your institution created. And this viewer will has the ability to process the IEs that he wants to show the user. And then he will use any kind of sensitive information using the Access Web Services. So we have Access Web Service that the viewer can be, as I said, external, so it doesn't have to be inside of Rosetta. It can be on any other server out there. And then he will use the web service, the Access Web Service, in order to get the stream, the file, get the path to the file, process the file, any kind of metadata on the file. We'll take a look later on also on the different parts of that. And then generate the HTML with the object that is streamed to the user. So this is the viewer itself. And again, each viewer has its own logic and its own abilities. So this is, if you take a look at the big picture now, back in the big picture, as we said, we have the delivery manager that does the access rights, processes delivery rules. Then we have the VPP, if there is a VPP on the viewer. And then we redirect to the viewer itself. That's whether it's internal or external, and there the object itself is streamed to the user. If we go through the delivery viewer type, so we have a file viewer. These are viewers that have the ability to present one file at a time. The input is the PID that is given is a file PID on this URL. Okay, so whether you give the delivery manager servlet, that's the URL to the delivery, a PID as a file, we will look for a rule and eventually to a viewer that is on a file level viewer. So it can be on its own if you're making delivery not on IE but actually on a file level, or it can be part of a IE viewer like it's done in the METS viewer. Okay, so in the METS viewer you have the METS viewer has the tree on the left side if you recall, and in the middle we have the file viewer of each individual file with its viewer that is configured in its rules. The second part is or second type is the IE viewer, and these are viewers that can deliver not only a specific file but actually a full IE. This full IE can have several representations. It can have several, obviously, files in it. It's one viewer for all the files and representations that are allowed as part of this delivery. Now, again, the METS viewer, for example, is the IE viewer that has the ability to deliver several types of representations with several types of struct maps and files. Other viewers might be able, like we have the rep viewer that delivers only one specific rep. Okay, so then you would have to configure and make sure your configuration only delivers one rep on this IE viewer. But the idea of the IE viewer is it delivers more than one file, but several files of a specific IE. So if we'll go through the out-of-the-box viewers. We'll see we have the general IE viewer, and this is a little, we've been working on it in the version 5.4 that's going to be coming out in a couple of months. I'd like to present to you what we've done till now. This is still in the delivery process, but this is the new METS viewer. I think we did a tremendous job over here, and as you can see, we did a big change in the METS viewer. It's the same thing if you take a look at it. On the left side, we have the tree, the drawers that we had in the past, the different representations. But we did a big change. It has now the look and feel of the rep viewer, if you recall. we've done over here, again, this is going to be in 5.4. We've done over here several changes. We have this button over here that opens it up, focuses on the specific file, and this delivery. Let's give it a moment. So over here we have a focused viewer, a file viewer. This is actually. Then we have over here on the right side, on the right pane, we have the metadata on the file over here on the bottom, and on the IE on the top. Okay, so this is another new feature in this viewer. We have the ability to close it and extend the page like this. And we have another new button over here, download all. Okay, you'll be able to download files inside your the entire files of this delivery. Obviously, this is also configurable by the representation profile. So there is what to look forward in 5.4 as part of the METS viewer. This is really a big change, and I think you'll be happy to see it. So that's the general IE viewer, and as I mentioned, I mean, the general viewer is like a super viewer. You can view several reps, several IEs, files at each rep, different struct maps. You know, it's a little complex for a simple user, but this is one of the out-of-box viewers, and it's something that can deliver anything there is to deliver. If the browser can't, or there's no file viewer, it will let you download the file to your computer, and then if you have any other tools to open the file, whatever it is, like an Excel or something like that, you'll be able to open it there. Then we have the general presentation viewer that was been developed about, I think, about 2 or 3 versions back. So this is, again, today it's very similar to the IE viewer. Okay, the IE viewer is actually very similar to the general representation viewer. The big difference is that the representation viewer only delivers one rep. Okay, and the IE viewer can deliver several reps. Another thing is the IE viewer shows you the tree of the struct map that's affiliated with that rep, and the representation viewer doesn't show any kind of struct map. It just gives a list of the files. So there are differences between these two viewers. We have the article viewer. This is a viewer that exposes content in a format compatible with Google Scholar indexing. Okay, it's meant specifically for Google Scholar. So if you have a need, this is a viewer that you can use. We have the photo album viewer. It's meant for pictures and photo albums. It's a very cool viewer. We're not going to see take a look at all of them now. We have the flex paper viewer that is a PDF viewer. One of the advantages over here, the flex paper viewer, is that you can eliminate the download button. So if you have files that you don't want the users to be able to download, if you would stream it to the browser and have the browser's PDF viewer open it, then usually you would have the download button over there. And if for license reasons you don't want them to have the download button, you'll be able to configure it using the flex paper PDF viewer, and then they wouldn't be able to download it, only view the PDF file. We have the old JPEG viewer, and we have the JPEG 2000 viewer. And the last one over here on this list is the XSL viewer. That gives you the ability to process some kind of XSL on your very specific type of files and have it your XML presented in a nice way, in an HTML way. Okay, I mean I think it's EAD files or something like that. So it's a very specific type of viewer for a specific type of XMLs. Since 5.3 that was released a couple of months ago, we have the new viewers that are based on the IIIF. So we have the IIIF manifest viewer, and this gives you the ability, and this is a big thing that we just released. This gives you the ability to use any kind of IIIF viewers. So the manifest that you receive is a manifest that is totally compatible with the IIIF, and it can be used as part of any other IIIF viewers. Then we, as part of Rosetta, we have released 2 out-of-the-box viewers. We have the universal viewer that, again, is based on the IIIF manifest viewer. It also uses, we'll take a look at it in a moment, and also the OpenSeaDragon viewer. So let's take a look a little more specific. So we have, as I said, the IIIF manifest viewer. In this viewer, we have an XSL, Okay, it's called METS to manifest XSL. That is configurable. We have an out-of-box configuration, but you are welcome to configure it as much as you like. And if you take a look at the manifest, what it looks like. So if you take a look over here at the, this is very special syntax compatible with IIIF. So we have the delivery IIIF presentation, and then you can have a manifest, you can have the canvas, sequence, whatever parts you're requesting, your viewer is requesting, and then you can get, this is the manifest that is created by Rosetta. And again, you can configure it and deliver any kind of other manifest for your IIIF. If you create a IIIF external viewer, okay, you have the ability to configure this, the XSL, and then the output over here would be influenced by that. As I said, we have the universal viewer that is an IE viewer, okay, delivers several files, and I guess it's only one rep viewer and a specific rep. Okay, it doesn't have several reps, but in a specific rep, it can deliver several files. As I said, it's based on the manifest viewer. That means, and we'll take a look at it as soon as the configuration. It's important to understand that. But the universal viewer actually uses the manifest that we have, that we exposed over here in the first part. And what it uses also is the Cantaloupe image server that is part of Rosetta now since 5.3. So the image server is Cantaloupe, streams the files into your browser. So if we take a look, maybe take a look first of all, an example of the universal viewer where we didn't see it yet. So this is a universal viewer. Our objective is that this will eventually replace your JPEG viewer and the JPEG 2000 viewer, because this also supports both JPEG 2000 and JPEG and TIFF. And if you take a look over here, it's really very, very cool abilities to this viewer, and something that's really recommended to use. So if we take a look for a moment at the configuration, this is something it's worthwhile explaining, because this is something that tend to do mistakes over here. We will go through the delivery rules, but there's something specific to understand regarding the IIIF viewers. If you take over here the list, okay, the IIIF manifest viewer always has to be before the universal viewer, okay? And this is something that has to be clear. This is the order that has to be, because since the IIIF universal viewer uses the manifest viewer, okay, so what's going to happen if you make a delivery of the opposite way, it won't work, okay, because the way the delivery rules work. Okay, so this is something that you have to be part of your configuration. The manifest viewer always has to be before any other IIIF viewers. If you take a look at the rules itself, you'll see that it can cause problems, because the viewer will hit the wrong viewer. The delivery will hit the wrong viewer, and then it won't work. So this is something that it's important to understand. As I said, the universal viewer uses the manifest viewer as part of its delivery. Okay, and the last viewer that was added as part of 5.3 is the OpenSeaDragon Viewer. This is a file viewer. It actually doesn't use the IIIF manifest, but it does use the Cantaloupe that we added, image server. If we take a look at the OpenSeaDragon Viewer, and this is also, actually, the universal viewer also uses the OpenSeaDragon Viewer. Okay, so here's the same picture and the same abilities. So this is also, you can use this, instead of using the JPEG viewer, you can use the OpenSeaDragon Viewer from 5.3 and on. Okay, then we have the external viewers, and again, any of you probably have, some of you have external viewers that you developed or got from other customers. We have, in GitHub, we have published several external viewers that you can for different legal reasons are there and not inside Rosetta, but we have the book reader viewer. There's a very nice viewer, and it has also the Alto book reader. Maybe you can take a look at an example over here. Again, whoever's not familiar with it. So here's an example of the Alto book reader, and what's very cool about this viewer is you can search. You have the ability to search in this Alto functionality, and it finds all the inside the JPEG over here. So if we focus on it, here we are. So you see the search works, and it's very, very, very cool. We have something new that we it was uploaded to the GitHub lately. It's IIIF book reader viewer. Okay, and this also gives the ability of currently the book reader viewer, the regular one is only supports JPEG. Okay, and the IIIF book reader will supports also JPEG 2000 viewers files. Okay, so this is a new viewer that was lately uploaded to GitHub. We have the video player viewer, the web archive viewer that NLZ developed, IIP image viewer. So these are a whole set of viewers. So if we're still part of the delivery overview, we'll take a look and understand what's the difference between the viewer preprocessor and the external viewer itself. So as I mentioned in a couple slides ago, every viewer has two parts. It has the viewer itself, and then you can have a viewer preprocessor as a plugin as part of your process. And when you're coming to develop an external viewer, you would ask yourself, do I need a viewer preprocessor or not? And what part of my logic will be done in the viewer preprocessor, and which part will be done in the external viewer? So just to get an understanding now of what's the difference between the two. So the viewer preprocessor is a plugin, as I said, it's a jar, it's a Java jar based on Java. It has to implement an abstract Java, and we'll see it in a few slides. The external viewer is a web application. It's deployed on an external server. It could theoretically be deployed inside of Rosetta. We don't recommend that, but it's usually a WAR file that has some kind of viewer. All you configure inside Rosetta is a URL to that viewer. The viewer processor enables to execute functionality on the Rosetta server. So if you think about it, the viewer processor is inside Rosetta. Okay, it's a plugin. So any I/O processing, anything that you want to do on the Rosetta side, on the Rosetta server, you would want to do it maybe preferably in the viewer preprocessor. On the other hand, the external viewer, any kind of communication with Rosetta is done through web services or HTTP or Streamgate. So it's obviously more costly, and it's something that may, you have to take that in consideration. Another ability of the viewer preprocessor is to be done in an asynchronous way. That means we have a built-in progress bar ability. Okay, we saw it a moment ago in the book reader. Okay, so if there's some kind of processing that has to be done, and it might take some time, a minute or two, you want the user to have some kind of progress bar in front of him. So we have that ability as part of viewer preprocessor. So if there is some kind of processing that might take some time, for example, in the book reader, for example, the way the book reader works, it has to get the files in a very specific directory and some kind of specific naming convention. So if you have 1,000 files now in this book, okay, and you have to copy them in a very specific syntax, at least for the first time, the viewer, the user is viewing this book using this book reader, that might take a minute or two. And then, the way we did it, the way we implemented the book reader, that part is done as part of the viewer preprocessor, and then the user sees the progress bar in front of him till it finishes processing, and then only then it's the user is redirected to the book reader itself. And on the other hand, in the external viewer, all processing will delay viewing without any kind of friendly indication, unless you develop some kind of friendly indication, obviously, as part of your external viewer. Okay, so that was a very long overview of the delivery. Do we have any questions to know before we go a little more into depth into the VPP? Okay, I guess not. So let's go on into going into a little more depth of the viewer preprocessor. Okay, so we saw this before, right after we check the rules, we check the access rights, we know which viewer we want to use. Every viewer could have, doesn't have to have, could have a VPP affiliated with it. And then at this stage of the delivery, we will process the VPP, and let's take a look. The VPP prepares the data for the use of the viewer preprocessor, as it's called. So this is its job to prepare any kind of data for the viewer. When should we use a VPP? And this is just kind of, again, a few examples. Copying the files from permanent repository to a working area. Okay, for example, okay, maybe you wouldn't want the delivery, or you have some kind of processing your viewer needs to do. Maybe you want to do some kind of, I lost the word, some kind of processing to your files, okay, and you don't want to do that in the permanent repository, so you want to copy your files into a working area. That could take some time, okay, so that's something you might want to do in the VPP. Conversion of files to a specific format, for example. Updating the viewer parameters. You might have to have, again, your viewer might be a third party that is expecting to get some kind of specific parameters. Those parameters might be influenced by some kind of data inside the DNX. So again, you have other options, but you might have to send to this viewer, again, it depends on the viewer, some kind of parameters on the URL itself. Okay, and then you have the ability, as part of VPP, to add parameters from whatever data you want to bring from the metadata of this file onto the URL. Okay, and then that will be part of the URL that is eventually redirected to the specific viewer. And as I said before, using a VPP is not mandatory. It's not mistaken, the METS viewer, our generic viewer, doesn't have any VPP. Again, only if your viewer needs it, you would have to develop a VPP. What's a VPP? So a VPP is a standard Rosetta plugin. Okay, we have several types of plugins. It's a plugin type of VPP plugin. So you're going to have to first develop the plugin as a type of the VPP plugin. It's going to be a Java code wrapped in a jar file. Like any other plugins in Rosetta, you'd have to deploy it into Rosetta, and the minute you deploy it to Rosetta and install it, put it into the deploy directory and then eventually install it, then you would see it on the list of VPPs when you were creating a viewer, and we'll take a look at it later on. So let's take a look at the Viewer Preprocessor Plugin Interface. So the main methods we have there is the void init. Okay, so this is the initialization. Okay, this is one first basic method that accepts the DNX, the view context, the different parameters that are passed to the VPP, the request, the DVS. Okay, that's the delivery session ID, who is the IE parent ID, and the representation dir name. And then we have the execute itself, and that's where you're going to do whatever logic there is. If you're going to if there are things that are, might take some time consuming, you would do it inside the execute. And then we have the Boolean run async that returns true or false. You would implement this method. And this method, if your logic of the execute is something that is time consuming, you would want to have it run async. You would return a true, and then you would have to implement a separate thread for that. Okay, and then a part of the execute, you would run a separate thread, and then you would have the progress bar used as part of this delivery. As I said, run async should return a true if a long VPP process time is expected. The progress bar can be implemented during the execute method only. Okay, so as I said, simple logic should be placed in the init method, complex logic in the execute method. So what is a VPP? A VPP implements the abstract viewer preprocessor, and it extends the abstract viewer preprocessor getters for all parameters in the init. Okay, that's what you get. You can get the DNX, the DVS, whatever, everything else. You can get the PID. What's the PID that you are now processing as part of delivery, and get access. And access is a API. Okay, again, this is not a web service. This is we're a plugin. We're part of Rosetta, but it has access to the following methods. Get IE returns the IE. Now, currently, I mean not currently, the way it works now, the IE that was turned over here, this is the METS, okay, is a very slim METS. It only includes the IE level metadata and the rep level metadata, no files, okay? You have the struct map over there, but no files. The reason is it's time consuming to export all the data on files, and it can take a long time, and we don't want to, there's no need for that. So it's kind of like lazy. So the way we do it is the IE only returns the IE and rep level, and if you need a specific file and you request it, then we go to the database and we export the file, the specific file you needed, but we don't export initially all of the metadata on all files, okay? Because if you have thousands of files, for example, inside your METS, that can take quite a bit of time to bring all the data from the database, and then only every specific file that the user requests, we will go to the database and bring its metadata. If for some reason there is a need to get a METS that has much more data, like for example the web archive external viewer that we have, or that is outside there, needs the full IE in order to create the web archive viewer. Okay, so then he uses also the get extended IE by DVS, and then it brings from the database the entire IE according to the flags. We're not going to go into detail on that, but you can see that inside the documentation. Then we have, for example, also the get file stream, and this returns the input stream of the file. Okay, and we have a method called export file stream that is used to copy the files to some kind of other NFS area, and progress bar APIs. So these are the main methods in the viewer preprocessor, and these are the tools that you have over here to run any kind of business logic you need and you want to do as part of your viewer preprocessor. So we'll take a little look at some kind of code, something very simple. This is a small example I brought over here. This is the JPEG viewer preprocessor. So you see over here, it extends the abstract viewer preprocessor. We have two methods or three methods. We have the init over here. Okay, so we have, now I know what the PID is. Okay, and this is just I didn't do anything interesting over here. And then we have the execute. And the execute over here, what we do in the JPEG viewer, we export the file stream, okay, to some kind of local, like cache from the wherever the file is originally placed. We export it out. If, for example, it's a TIFF, okay, file, so the JPEG viewer knows how to not the VPP actually. It's done actually as part of viewer itself. It converts it to a JPEG, okay, so it can be delivered in the browser. Okay, so the exports all the files, whatever it is. If it's a TIFF, it's a JPEG, whatever they are, and then we can do different processing on them from the directory is export to. So that's like the cache of this viewer. We take a look over here. Here's an example of using the access API, okay, or over here also with the export. Okay, so that's the way you use it. And then over here, this is an example of how we set different parameters on the URL. So over here we put the rep PID and the MIME type and the file PID on the parameters map, and this is eventually can be used by the viewer. This data that was put on the param map. Okay, and if you take a look on the bottom over here, we return false on run async. Okay, this viewer is not something that takes too much time, so we didn't implement over here any kind of async. This is a file viewer, the JPEG viewer. So usually file viewers won't be using the async. Usually if it's an IE viewer, then it could be processing several thousands or hundreds of files, and that's where you would need to use the progress bar. Okay, so that was the VPP. Any questions till now? Okay. So we'll go on to the Rosetta Delivery's APIs, and this is we'll be using the viewer itself. Okay, so we're taking a look at the third part of the delivery, and this is the viewer itself. Again, as we saw, we have a whole bunch of viewers that come out of the box. We have external viewers that are part of the GitHub. Other customers have their own external viewers. If you want to develop a viewer, the tools we give you to deliver it, to make delivery, are the Delivery Access Web Service. This is a web service. This is the WSDL. You can find the web service WSDL under the DPS Web Services. Okay, so this is the WSDL of the Delivery Access Web Services. And this is used by the viewer itself. There's no need to use it as part of VPP because there you can use to get access. Okay, but this is the viewer itself that can be theoretically out of, usually it's out of Rosetta. It's out somewhere. Okay, in order to communicate with Rosetta, you're going to have to use the web services. Now, as I mentioned over here, all APIs need the DVS. Okay, so DVS will always be on the URL, parameter on the URL. And in order to make delivery, you're going to have to use that DVS because any kind of APIs of delivery access use the DVS as input, as a parameter. So what are the main methods we have? As part of it, we have the get file path by DVS. This will return you, you would give a file PID and a DVS, and then you would get back the file path, where to find the files and how to get them. Get DNX document. Again, this is for a specific file. You can get the DNX, and this is the metadata on the file. As I said, we don't cache it initially. Okay, if we request that it's not in the cache yet, we have a delivery cache. It's not in the cache yet, then we would go to the database and bring this information, every file specifically when you need it. And we have, just like in the Access API, we also have here get the extended IE by DVS. And those are the main APIs of Delivery Access Web Service, and you can use it, and it is used as part of delivery. Okay, any other questions on that part? So we'll go on to the delivery configuration. This is also a bit complex, and it's worthwhile taking a look at it. We have the viewer management, so let's take a look. We'll have to log in. Here we are. Okay. Sorry. So inside the delivery over here in the administration, we have 4 different configuration pages. So we're going to start with the viewer management. Okay, so over here we have a whole list of, these are the viewers that are out of the box. So currently we have 17 viewers out of the box. Okay, this list is a fixed list. Okay, we have some of them are file level viewers over here. So you can see the OpenSeaDragon Viewer, the FlexPaper Viewer. We have 2 types of FlexPaper. We have IE file. We also have the HTML5 based FlexPaper Viewer. So there are several viewers over here. JPEG Viewer. If we take a look at the second page, you can see the Universal Viewer, the new Universal Viewer, the IIIF Manifest Viewer. This is the general I view. This is the older one. Again, we're looking at a 5.4 already at this site. This is a list of the viewers. If we take a look at a viewer, what does it include? So if you want to add an external viewer over here, so we have the name and description, and over here you would place the URL, the level, and the plugin. So over here, if you take a look, these are the list of plugins currently this site has. Any, again, plugin you would install into Rosetta, if it's a type of a VPP, it would be on this list, and you'd be able to choose it as your VPP. But as I said, it doesn't have to be. You can also have it kept as empty without any VPP plugin. You'd have to define if your viewer is file viewer or IE viewer and the URL. Maybe let's take a look at a demo. A little more data over here. Sorry, I meant to go to the viewers. Here we are. So over here we have a whole set of also external viewers configured over here. Let's take an example. Okay, so this is the video player viewer. Okay, this is what it looks like, the URL and the files. There's no VPP over there. Trying to see if there's anything. Yeah, over here we see you can have a full URL. Okay, these examples over here are all deployed inside on the demo itself, but you can have also external viewers. I'm trying to see if there's any example over here, but I don't see anything currently. Okay, but again, the viewer URL, the external viewers can be configured anywhere, also outside of Rosetta, even preferably outside of Rosetta, because it's a WAR that's totally separated from Rosetta. Okay, so this is the viewer configuration. Okay, that's the first list. Then if we go on, we have the representation profile configuration. Okay, so what does it include? So we have the name and the description over here, and then what the idea of the representation profile, it's used only as the part of the IE rule, not the file rule. Okay, and the idea is over here is the IE rule has to decide which representations you're going to want to deliver to the user. Okay, that means you have a few representations. You have the preservation master, modified master, your derivative copy, etc. Okay, and you might want to have maybe even depends on which kind of user it is. If it's a signed-in user or it's a public user, okay, you might want to have them view different types of representations. Okay, so example, if you want to have your regular view, your typical viewer user, like a public user, only be able to see the derivative copy. Okay, so you would configure over here, for example, a representation type, preservation type, to use the derivative copy. Okay. Or you can use the presentation code or representation entity type. That means you'll be able to over here do some kind of filtering on which representations will be delivered as part of the delivery. Okay, so this is part of the configuration used as part of the IE rules, and we'll take a look at it now. So let's take a look at the IE delivery rules now. This is quite complex, so it's worthwhile going over it. So we have the input parameters, we have the output parameters, okay, and this is important to understand. Input parameters define which IE will use this rule, okay, so you can decide using the IE entity type. That's a typical way to use it. If you have a specific owner, that means institution, okay, that means you have several institutions and your institution you want your institution to use this specific viewer, so you would have the owner use, but the typical way is to have the entity type against a list that you can manage. Okay, for example, book, you would use the book reader. Okay, so you would have your IEs that you want to deliver using the book reader. You would have it entity type set to be book, and then you would configure it over here, your rule, to have the book. And if the minute you see IE entity book, you know this is what you want to use in this example. Okay, you can also have some kind of parameters on your URL. Okay, that means if you're making a delivery from outside of Rosetta, okay, you have a URL, you can add to the end of URL some kind of parameter, and that parameter will define to which viewer to use. Okay, so this can also be an input parameter. For example, you can say viewer equals, I don't know, whatever viewer you want, and if you put that on a URL, this will be a input parameter that will define to use this specific rule. Okay, so this is the input. Okay, you can also have mobile, any what kind of browser type, and then we have the output parameters. The output parameters includes two parts. Okay, we have the representation profile. Okay, that means you're going to decide which representation profile, which representations actually are going to be delivered as part of this IE, part of this view. Okay, and then you have the whole list of representation profile over here, and you can decide which ones you want to deliver. And you also want to define over here which viewer. Okay, so example, you might want to have the derivative copy used with a specific viewer, and the preservation master used with a different viewer. Okay, some other viewer. Okay, so you would define over here also a set of rules, and there's also, maybe we'll add a one or two over here, for example. This part is also a type of rules. Okay, so if you take a look, again, this for an example. So over here we have two over here, and this order over here also is important because he's going to try this, see if he finds any kind of representations that are Alto, whatever it is. Okay, and if he doesn't find, he'll go on to the next entry and try that. And if eventually he doesn't find anything, he'll use the default one on the bottom over here. So this is a bit complex. Again, this is a input parameters. In the output parameters, we also have a type of a rule, okay, over here with importance to the order of this set of rules. I hope that was clear. And now we go to the last part over here. This is a bit simpler. The file delivery rules. Okay, so over here it's really only input parameters. Okay, so you can decide a specific file extension by file, MIME type, file format. Those are obviously similar. A file entity type, and you can decide that this rule will use whatever viewer you want, and you can also add different parameters that will be sent to your viewer as part of the output parameters. And again, as it is also IE and also file, the order over here is very important. Okay, so you want to make sure the order over here is the way you want it to be. You would have at the end is always a default viewer, so if no rule over here is good for your file, eventually we'll get to the stream gate, and we would just stream your file into the browser. Okay, so this is the configuration of delivery rules. As I mentioned also before, it's important over here to always have the manifest viewer before the universal viewer or any other IIIF viewers that use the manifest viewer. Okay, so that's about it, I believe. Any questions on everything we talked about today? So if we'll do a short maybe recap also. So we mentioned different parts of creating a viewer. You have the viewer itself. We have the VPP part. VPP is optional. We tried to understand when is a good idea to use the VPP and how to use it. When you develop an external viewer, we went through some kind of overview of the entire delivery, and we saw different types of viewers we have currently and which kind of external viewers we have at GitHub. There's much more documentation that support a few over here of adding an external viewer. There's a documentation over here, delivery web services, Java doc, an example of integrating JW Player as a Rosetta viewer. Okay, so you're welcome to take a look at the developers network and taking a look there at different examples we have there, and also looking at GitHub and see what kind of external viewers we have there in order to enhance your delivery in your system. So that's it. Thank you very much. I was pleased to be here with you today. I think this is currently my last session, WebEx session. I believe Rivka Our other team leader in Rosetta will be giving another WebEx in about a month. So you should be getting an invitation from Daniel. And look forward to seeing you one day. Thank you. Bye.